unqualified, it's much more like it, but here goes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya, Gurudev. Hari Bol. Am I supposed to say it? Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajak Acharya Astotarastota Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Is that
suited? Go ahead, Prabhu.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shanmakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavana Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Ayodhya Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Gurudas Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And welcome to everyone for Srimad-Bhagavatam class. I have to look up at the participants list to see if Maharaj is here tonight with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. Looks like tonight it's going to start with friends. We'll see if Maharaj signs on or not. We're reading in the Srimad-Bhagavatam 3rd canto, 24th chapter, starting tonight with text number 43. Eager to hear everyone's reading and commentary as always, and I will now rest my voice. Hare Krishna.
Would you like to begin the reading, Gurudas Prabhu?
I guess I'm really on a roll, huh? I, again, don't deserve this very high honor, but I'll do my best. Text 43. Mano Brahmani Yunjano Yat Tat Sat Asata Param Gunavabase Viguna Eka Bhatye Bhaktyanubhavite. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman, who is beyond cause and effect, who manifests the three modes of material nature, who is beyond those three modes, and who is perceived only through unfailing devotional service. Purport. Whenever there is bhakti, there must be three things present: the devotee, the devotion, and the Lord. Without these three, bhakta, bhakti, and bhagavan, there is no meaning to the word bhakti. Kardama Muni fixed his mind on the Supreme Brahman and realized him through bhakti, or devotional service. This indicates that he fixed his mind on the personal feature of the Lord, because bhakti cannot be executed unless one has realization of the personal feature of the absolute truth. Gunavabhase. He is beyond the three modes of material nature, but it is due to him that the three modes of material nature are manifested. In other words, although the material energy is an emanation of the Supreme Lord, he is not affected as we are by the modes of material nature. We are conditioned souls, but he is not affected, although the material nature has emanated from him. He is the supreme living entity and is never affected by Maya, but we are subordinate, minute living entities prone to be affected by the limitations of Maya. If he is in constant contact with the Supreme Lord by devotional service, the conditioned living entity also becomes freed from the infection of Maya. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sagunan samatityayitam. A person engaged in Krishna consciousness is at once liberated from the influence of the three modes of material nature. In other words, once the conditioned soul engages himself in devotional service, he also becomes liberated like the Lord.
Thank you. Would you like to make some comments on what you've just read, Prabhu?
Well, in one sense, a very basic purport that Prabhupada manifests again and again for our benefit. Certain things need repeating over and over. And one of the things that Prabhupada has determined that need repeating over and over is that although we are affected by the modes, and so everything we think about, everything we imagine or conceive is affected by the modes of nature that we accept or allow to affect us. But the Supreme Lord, who is the creator of the modes, by definition, has to be beyond them. He created them, but he's not subject to them. The manager of the prison or the king is not subject, even though he may visit the prison, but he's not subject to the laws of the prison as the prisoners are. So somehow or other, we, being marginal, we have the tendency to think the Lord is one of us, a common living entity, and then as soon as we think that, we fall down. We become mundane or covered by Maya. And the Lord is so kind, he gives us the free will whether to accept him as transcendental, and not only he, but his plenary portions, his expansions, and also, very importantly for us, the spiritual masters. We are being trained in our bhakti to accept the spiritual master as transcendental. That's our entire morning program is about accepting the guru as transcendental. So this is a lesson that the acharyas insist that we learn. And if we don't learn it, then we're basically, whatever we're doing or we're thinking that we're doing in Krishna consciousness is really just imitation. It doesn't really have any value. That's all I wanted.
Thank you very much. That was great. Are there any comments in the chat, Surabhi Kunj?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, yes, they are.
Haribol Mataji.
Kendra Prabhu says, Srila Prabhupada says here, Bhakti cannot be executed unless one has realization of the personal feature of the absolute truth. So those of us without such realization, it's sometimes helpful to clarify are performing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti most specifically. Thank you, Gurudas Prabhu. Building on what you've said, here Srila Prabhupada says, we are subordinate, minute living entities, prone to be affected by the limitations of Maya. We hear it again and again if we're paying attention, because we need to hear it again and again, because we're in Maya. At least I am. And Saraswati Mataji has raised her hand. Oh, and before that, Kendra Prabhu has another comment. Fortunately, as Gurudas Prabhu has mentioned, a person engaged in Krishna consciousness is at once liberated from the influence of the three modes of material nature. So if we want to know what liberation feels like, we just have to dive into the process.
Joy. Mother Saraswati, would you like to say something?
Pranams to everyone. I'm just remembering, during our preaching efforts, some of the things we come across, and sometimes, or very often, we have to preach to ourselves as well. So this idea that somebody who owns something, that they cannot be affected, it's very clear that all the energies that Krishna possesses, he is in complete control. He's the master. In our material world, what we experience, we sometimes see that owners of things that they possess are very often consumed by that which they possess. They're controlled, they're swayed, they're influenced. So this idea that somebody could own something and completely be in control of it, it sometimes can be a little bit hard for some people to relate to, because in their experience, they've seen the opposite. I mean, just a rudimentary example is someone who owns a bottle of liquor. They're completely addicted. That bottle owns them. So that was one thing. And the other thing I wanted to say is this word subordination. That usually here in the material world, when we hear of becoming subordinate, it carries this kind of connotations of inferiority, of being subjected forcibly into some lowly position. And so people are kind of reluctant to want to be subordinate. Sometimes it's because in their experience, they think, well, that equates to being exploited. If somebody can't be equal in every way, and then they're pushed into this position of subordination, then that kind of reeks of unfairness. But actually, if we think about it long and hard, that person who is in a subordinate position is actually the true beneficiary. And just one example I can give is parent to child. That parent is pouring everything that they have in them to try and see that this child is thriving, nurtured, all the needs are being met. Their entire focus is on that child. So who is benefiting? That subordinate child or that parent, really, in one sense. So it's really important for all of us to try and understand that to be in a subordinate position to Krishna, that's like the greatest, the ultimate honor and privilege anyone can have. And Krishna's given that to us, that we can be in this subordinate position to him, so that we're in his care, in his protection. He's pouring everything that he has into that relationship. Haribol, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to make a comment? Shall we read the next verse? Text 44. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, would you like to do the honors?
Only if you insist, because I would like to hear from you first your recitation and your comments, if I may ask.
I insist.
Okay, if you insist, here it goes. Text 44. Nirahang kritir nirmamash cha nirdva dva samadrik svadrik pratyak prashantadir dira prashanturmir ivoda hi. Translation. Thus, he gradually became unaffected by the false ego of material identity and became free from material affection. Undisturbed, equal to everyone and without duality, he could indeed see himself also. His mind was turned inward and was perfectly calm, like an ocean unagitated by waves. Purport. When one's mind is in full Krishna consciousness and one fully engages in rendering devotional service to the Lord, he becomes just like an ocean unagitated by waves. This very example is also cited in Bhagavad Gita. One should become like the ocean. The ocean is filled by many thousands of rivers, and millions of tons of its water evaporates into clouds. Yet the ocean is the same unagitated ocean. The laws of nature may work, but if one is fixed in devotional service at the lotus feet of the Lord, he is not agitated, for he is introspective. He does not look outside to material nature, but he looks into the spiritual nature of his existence. With a sober mind, he simply engages in the service of the Lord. Thus, he realizes his own self without false identification with matter and without affection for material possessions. Such a great devotee is never in trouble with others because he sees everyone from the platform of spiritual understanding. He sees himself and others in the right perspective.
Could you make some comments, please?
Srila Prabhupada used to say that, and I'm just paraphrasing him. If I may do it, and correct me if I am wrong, that characteristically in Kali Yuga, people, instead of fixing themselves at the lotus feet of the Lord by the execution of pure devotional service, they choose to fight amongst themselves like cats and dogs. And this is related to what is being said at the very end of the purport, that a great devotee is never in trouble with others. And we already had 2 world wars which killed so many people, because if we go to the extreme of fighting with each other, it may happen that we can even kill each other. So, and the human form of life is so valuable. So I think that in this purport, we have the good fortune of obtaining from Srila Prabhupada the solution, if I may say it, related to stopping to fight each other. And the process is related to undeviated devotional service. Undeviated pure devotional service is capable of enabling us to see the others in the right perspective, which is the exact opposite of fighting with them. We do give the devotee, the pure devotee, he understands that the human form of life is as good as giving us the chance for us to do what we are meant to do as parts and parcels that we are of God. The part and parcel, what is the duty of the part and parcel is to render service to the whole. That is my comment. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Serving the whole without fighting with the other parts and parcels.
Yeah. I was looking at admiring this reference to the Bhagavad Gita. I think Kendra was following up. If I saw the chat flashed across my phone screen, that verse, I had to look at. I used to have this committed to memory, but somehow it slipped away. Apuriyamana machala pratishtam samudramapa prabhashanti advat tadvat kamayam prabhashanti sarve sashantim apnoti nakama kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. And in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that a Krishna conscious man is not, the devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. And desires may come to him like the waters of the river that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, and he's not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. So that, I believe, is the verse that is being referred to here, and it's perfectly applicable and appropriate.
And Panchatat Das Prabhu, if I may, very quickly, if we see others as parts and parcels of God, and if we do love God, why would we destroy them? Instead, if we are really in love with God, we should help engage his other parts and parcels in service to him. That is a real love. Instead of trying to destroying the other parts and parcels and making them away from acting as parts and parcels, we should, if we are really in love with God, we should connect them with God, because we see them as his parts and parcels. If I am really in love with the whole, unavoidably what my train of action will be, let me favor the whole by offering the best type of service, and that includes connecting all his parts and parcels with him, if the case is that they're disconnected. And yes, when we see that any part and parcel is acting like being disconnected from the whole, in the case that I am in love with the whole, one of my actions will be, for sure, to reconnect this part and parcel of the whole, which is acting, at least apparently, like being disconnected from the whole, and that is complete love.
That's very nice. Yeah, you're reminding me. I give a mundane example of that. There's an organization called Doctors Without Borders. They go anywhere and everywhere, any difficult place, to try to treat people for their material diseases, and particularly they'll go to war-torn places to help suffering citizens, soldiers alike. So devotees, in one sense, he's kind of like that. He's seeing that the material disease is there, and he's trying to treat it by application of the medicine of prasadam and the holy name and so forth, to reconnect people to their eternal Father.
Yes, because they know that people suffer because they're disconnected from Krishna. As soon as you become reconnected with Krishna, you become naturally happy, and that is our natural position, to be happy.
Yeah, and that's being alluded to here in this verse, because it says towards the end of the purport, as you must have very nicely picked up on, as you've expanded on, a great devotee is never in trouble with others because he sees everyone from the platform of spiritual understanding. And he sees himself and others in the right perspective. Thank you very much, Vijay Krishna.
Yes, this part, never being in trouble with others. This is a very essential part of the life of a devotee.
Very good. Anyone? Is there anything in the chat, Surabhi Kunj?
Yes, there's a few comments. So, Ekendra Prabhu says, when we hear the description of Kardama's consciousness, we might think that he was already unaffected, free, undisturbed, etc. I take this to mean that there's no end to the advancement one can make. So our future is very bright should we choose to continue practicing Krishna consciousness. And then he mentioned the verse that you mentioned. This verse may remind us of the Bhagavad Gita verse. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. One of my favorites, Saraswati Mataji says, for all those that are identifying with matter, they are always agitated in some way, plagued with desires, anxieties, and fear. To disconnect from the material dictates can only be done by bhakti and taking shelter of Krishna, Guru, and Shastra. Otherwise, our focus is turned outwards instead of inwards. Ekendra Prabhu says, Apuryamanam achala pratistam samudram apa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnotina kama kami. And then he said, that's an important distinction, Panchatattva Prabhu. One who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. So the desire may still be there, but how a person deals with the desire is key. That takes a cool head and the ability to discriminate between the self and the mind. And Guru Das Prabhu has his hand raised.
Krishna. No, I was, it's a fascinating point, good discussion. And I just, in relation to what Vijay Krishna brought up initially, why can't people understand and not fight each other? And it occurred to me that I'm saying what you're saying, what the devotees have been saying in different words, that it's about knowledge. It's about developing spiritual knowledge. If persons don't have that knowledge, they don't know about Krishna. They don't know that he's the supreme protector, the supreme enjoyer, the supreme friend. They don't have that understanding, then they're going to see one another as enemies. They're going to see, friends and enemies, as Prahlad would say. They don't have that more complete understanding, as Saraswati Mata and Kendra Prabhu have been saying. That's all. That's my 2 cents.
Sorry, I got dropped there for a moment and now my audio isn't working properly. My apologies.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just bringing my little 2 cents to a close about that.
And Gurudas Prabhu, if I may, thank you for that. If I may, very quickly, the expression not never being in trouble with others in the ultimate sense is also related to doing something in order to free the others from their troubles. And and when you mention giving them knowledge, that is in the ultimate sense the very meaning of never being in trouble with others. So thank you, Gurudas Prabhu. Thank you very much.
We're on the same.
So, shall we move to the next verse? Anybody hear me?
Yes,
Oh.
we can.
Okay, good. I thought, here we go again with this system here. Who would like to read? How about Mukunda Charandas Brahmachari? Would you like to read? It's text 45. Chapter 24, text 45.
Sorry, I was through this, but I'm just listening in a very loud environment. So
Oh, okay.
won't be a good fit.
Don't do that. All right. I'll read this one, if it's all right with everyone.
Sure.
Vasudeve Bhagavati Sarvagye Pratyag Atmani Harena Bhakti Bhavena Labdhatma Mukta Bandhanaha. He thus became liberated from conditioned life and became situated in transcendental devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, the omniscient supersoul within everyone. Purport. When one engages in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, one becomes aware that his constitutional position as an individual soul is to be eternally a servitor of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Self-realization does not mean that because the Supreme Soul and the individual soul are both souls, they are equal in every respect. The individual soul is prone to be conditioned, and the Supreme Soul is never conditioned. When the conditioned soul realizes that he is subordinate to the Supreme Soul, his position is called Labdhatma, self-realization, or Mukta Bandhana, freedom from material contamination. Material contamination continues as long as one thinks that he is as good as the Supreme Lord or is equal with him. This condition is the last snare of Maya. Maya always influences the conditioned soul, even after much meditation and speculation. If one continues to think himself one with the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that he is still in the last snares of the spell of Maya. The word parena is very significant. Para means transcendental, untinged by material contamination. Full consciousness that one is an eternal servant of the Lord is called para bhakti. If one has any identification with material things and executes devotional service for attainment of some material gain, that is vidha bhakti, contaminated bhakti. One can actually become liberated by execution of para bhakti. Another word mentioned here is sarvagye. The supersoul sitting within the heart is all cognizant. He knows. I may forget my past activities due to the change of body, but because the Supreme Lord as Paramatma is sitting within me, he knows everything. Therefore, the result of my past karma or past activities is awarded to me. I may forget, but he awards me suffering or enjoyment for the misdeeds or good deeds of my past life. One should not think that he is freed from reaction because he has forgotten the actions of his past life. Reactions will take place, and what kind of reactions there will be is judged by the Supersoul, the witness. So, some really interesting points here. Prabhupada, of course, spoke of how in his early school days there was one teacher, professor, who was saying that karma cannot be possible because there is no witness. But Prabhupada knew very well as a young student there was a witness. He didn't speak up because there was some etiquette towards teachers in those days, unlike today. But but he knew that the teacher was his knowledge was incomplete, that the Paramatma is in the heart. And there's so many witnesses, the Paramatma, the demigods, the sun, the moon, the stars. There are so many witnesses to our activities day and night, whether we are in public or in seclusion, the witnesses are there. So that's the position of the conditioned soul. Therefore, karma is there, action and reaction. And Prabhupada has talked about a few important verses, important words in this verse. Parena, para means transcendental. And full consciousness that one is an eternal servant of the Lord is called para bhakti. And he goes on to say that having identification with material things and executing devotional service for attainment of some material gain, that is vidha bhakti, contaminated bhakti. So Lord Kapila later on explains in great detail, in more detail, different types of mixed devotional service. And although one's devotional service is often quite mixed at the beginning, one can gradually come to the platform of pure devotional service by hearing the instructions of great personalities of the Supreme Lord himself, as Lord Kapila, and by serving pure devotee. And then he mentions Sarvagya. The super soul is all cognizant. So the super soul is witnessing everything, and he's awarding the accordant karma for our past activities. He knows everything. Here, Prabhupada uses two words to describe the Paramatma's position. A two-word sentence. He knows. It's very effective. He knows. So someone knows, and someone is actually in the position to award us the according so-called pious reactions and sinful reactions of our past activities. That's the Paramatma. Any comments? Would anybody like to offer something on this verse? Anything in the chat, Surabhi Kunj?
Yes, there's a few comments. Kendra Prabhu said, perhaps because I was raised in an atmosphere of Santa Claus consciousness, when Srila Prabhupada says things like, if one has any identification with material things and executes devotional service for attainment of some material gain, that is Vida Bhakti, contaminated Bhakti, it helps me to see that I still have a crippled way of thinking. Saraswati Mataji says, this verse tells me just how fortunate we are to have the mercy of Mahavadanya Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who freely gave Krishna Prema to everyone, whether they were performing mixed bhakti or non-devotees totally unfit. My mother would pray to Krishna not to forget us, because we can forget him in this material world. But once Krishna forgets us, then what is the point of existing?
Wow, nice.
And Ananta Shesh Prabhu says, our vision is limited, that it's impossible to see all the witnesses around us. Most people believe only what they see with their material eyes, but we know better.
Yeah, nice point. I've been reading ahead, and of course we're in the 7th chapter of Adi Lila, Caitanya-caritamrta, and boy, Srila Prabhupada in the succeeding verses, when Lord Chaitanya is instructing Prakashananda Saraswati and his sannyas followers, he's instructing them in the chanting of the holy name and in the proper mood for chanting by giving the example, by showing them that his spiritual master told him he should do this, and that he was too foolish to do anything else. But Prabhupada in those purports, boy, he really goes into great detail about the great mercy of the holy name and its effect upon the conditioned soul. And just as Mother Saraswati was saying, our great fortune for having that opportunity in this age. Nice. Shall we go to the next verse? Oh, go ahead.
Ekendra Prabhu has another comment, and Gurudas Prabhu has raised his hand. So Ekendra Prabhu says, going back a couple of purports, when Srila Prabhupada clarifies the definition of bhakti, whenever there is bhakti, there must be three things present: the devotee, the devotion, and the Lord. Without these three, bhakta, bhakti, and Bhagavan, there is no meaning to the word bhakti. Those of us in the line of disciplic succession coming from Srila Prabhupada have something to say about bhakti, especially during these times when the term seems to be often misused.
Yeah, very good. Would you Yogananda will read the next verse.
Gurudas Prabhu, I think
Wait,
he has his hand raised.
Oh, please, Gurudas.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying and benefiting from the discussion. I am struck by this Prabhupada's constant reference to the last snare of the spell of Maya. This idea, if one continues to think himself one with the Supreme Lord, and I'm thinking, how can one possibly think that he is one with it? Especially, how can a devotee think he's one with the Supreme Lord? But we, as Kendra was starting to reference, we can make different mistakes that in our mixed devotion, that without intending to, perhaps I'm putting myself on the same level as the Lord. If I put myself in a particular situation, if I think I'm the enjoyer, or I'm the controller of this situation, or I'm a devotee, but I still possess all of these things, and I own these. I own this paraphernalia. I control it. In 100 little ways, perhaps, as we become aware of all of the qualities of Krishna and his complete possession of in full of the six opulences, his complete ownership, his complete proprietorship. As we become aware of that, and as we diminish our ownership and sense of ownership, sense of proprietorship, as we move towards what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mood of I have all of these possessions, family, wealth, etc., but all of this belongs to you, O Lord, and my position is to use it in your service. So until we move away from those things completely, those attitudes completely, we could be considered making that mistake of thinking myself one with the Lord, because in this situation or that situation, I'm trying to enjoy it. I'm trying to be the enjoyer. Even though, in the large sense, I know devotional service is about surrender, is about submission to the order of my guru and following that order. But I can still, there's so many pitfalls, and so we can still fall into them, and sometimes not even realize it until we get good association, where it's pointed out by one of our god brothers or sisters, or Maya kicks us either way.
Yeah, think about it. Krishna is really generous in assessing even our mixed bhakti here. He says that was that Chaturvada bhajante mam jana sukritana arjuna artha jigyasa artha jigyanicha paratarshava, person who's inquisitive, person who's distressed, desire of wealth. And he was actually searching for knowledge of the absolute. They're all pious. They're all counted as special souls. But to one degree or another, they're all on some level of cheating. They want something. They're not in a position of surrender. I shouldn't say they, I should say we, or at least myself. So that's, and yet Krishna is so magnanimous. He's saying, because I guess, and there's that word, it's some speculation on my part, but Krishna is so magnanimous that he knows that if they enter the path of bhakti through proper association and through proper service and through proper hearing, they'll gradually become purified because they're contacting him. They come to him, for an exchange to do some business, business exchange, and it's not good. But Krishna is happy that they're approaching, and we're happy that they're approaching the right person. But you're right. We have to get off the mixed platform of,
Well, yeah, that we have to take that when Prabhupada says that about being continues to think himself one with the Supreme Lord. We have to, at least for myself, I know I have to take it seriously as something that's related to me, or my towards bhakti.
Yeah. Very good. Anyone else? Anything else?
Kendra Prabhu says, thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu, for picking up on Srila Prabhupada's powerful two-word sentence in this purport. He knows. To my mind, one symptom of Srila Prabhupada's absolute conviction in the subject matter is his use of such short sentences. Sometimes his sentences have one word, no.
Also, one of my favorites, man proposes, God disposes.
Hare Krishna. So, Yogananda, would you like to read the next verse?
Sure.
You have it?
Yeah. Atmanam sarva bhuteshu bhagavatam abhashtikam pashat sarva bhutani bhagavati api chatmani. Can everyone hear?
You're
little quiet,
Yes,
Okay.
your signal's coming through well.
speak here.
Should I do it again?
Yes.
Okay. Atmanam sarvabhuteshu bhagavatam avashtitam pashat sarvabhutani bhagavati apichatmani. Translation.
Good.
He began to see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is seated in everyone's heart, and that everyone is existing on him, because he is the supersoul of everyone. Purport. That everyone is existing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not mean that everyone is also Godhead. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. Everything is resting on him, the Supreme Lord, but that does not mean that the Supreme Lord is also everywhere. This mysterious position has to be understood by highly advanced devotees. There are three kinds of devotees: the neophyte devotee, the intermediate devotee, and the advanced devotee. The neophyte devotee does not understand the techniques of devotional service, but simply offers devotional service to the deity in the temple. The intermediate devotee understands who God is, who is a devotee, who is a non-devotee, and who is innocent, and he deals with such persons differently. But a person who sees that the Lord is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and that everything is dependent or existing on the transcendental energy of the Supreme Lord, is in the highest devotional position. So I was thinking about the neophyte devotee, where you go to the temple, you do devotional service, and you're seeing the deity in the temple. So I was trying to, how do I see everyone else as a devotee and Paramatma in the heart? So I came up with a clever plan. I thought, well, Krishna is a friend of everyone. So whenever you have two friends and you offend one, the other friend will be hurt and offended as well, and they will defend that friend. So I figure if I offend a devotee or someone, then, oh my gosh, Krishna is there, Paramatma is there. I'm offending that Krishna, and I just don't want to go there. So I try to trick my mind to go in that direction of seeing that Paramatma is there, and I don't want to offend Krishna and try not to offend that person. Yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else like to offer a comment on this verse? Describing Kardama Muni seeing the personality of Godhead seated in everyone's heart and everyone existing on him.
Kendra says, nothing is different from Krishna, yet Krishna is different from everything.
Right.
Unquote.
Nice. I think I once heard His Grace Ravindra Swarup explain, Kendra can confirm or correct, but Ravindra Swarup Prabhu was describing how, so Krishna, everything is within Krishna, and Krishna is within everything. So if you go into the atom there, Krishna is present in every atom as a super soul. Then that Krishna within him is everything again, and then within him, and he was like drilling down saying, how do you comprehend this? Krishna is within everything, everything's within Krishna simultaneously. Is that correct, Kendra Prabhu?
Yeah, he that's actually him quoting Sadaputta Prabhu. And there's another Sadaputta Prabhu brings that up in one of the early lectures that he gave on the Origins magazine. And there's another quote that Ravindra Swarup Prabhu often cites, which is also from Sadaputta Prabhu, that nothing is Krishna save and except, nothing is different from Krishna, but nothing is Krishna save and except his own primordial personality. Sort of statements that excite PhDs.
Yeah. The 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita has a nice string of verses describing the Paramatma as presence everywhere, and so forth, existing outside of the supreme truth existing outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving, because he's settled, he's beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all, which echoes a verse from the Sri Upanishad. Anyway, wonderful vision. And Kardama Muni, via Bhagavatam, his experience is being related to us, so we can have some entrance into that experience by hearing Kardama Muni's growing awareness. It's interesting that it said here he began to see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is seated in everyone's heart, and that everyone is. It's like that other point that you were making earlier about it, Kendra Prabhu, about Kardama Muni's realization. I think he's already there, and I think you're making the point basically that it's almost like there's this continuous fine tuning or what would be the right word? Keening of the experience of a great spiritual personality. It's not that it becomes stale, stagnant. It's it doesn't like level off.
Right. I mean, that's true in any art form, in any sport. I mean, you watch people, you watch a couple of kids playing table tennis and they're hitting it back and forth and they're feeling pretty good about themselves. But then you watch people that are doing that on the Olympic level, and it's almost like they're just dancing like yards away from the table. And it's like it's incredible to see. So the same must be true to a greater degree of our devotional practice, to the point where someone could just see Srila Prabhupada and think, wow, just watching him pour water into his mouth gives them faith in God,
Yeah. I remember, this is a little bit of a digression, but I remember hearing Prabhupada memories I can't remember who was describing it, but he was with a person who was like expert in mudras and so forth, and this person watched Srila Prabhupada speaking or giving some, and he said, and he told the devotee, he said, Prabhupada's manifesting all of these different mudras and all of these different gestures indicating this and indicating that. In other words, even the motions of his body were full of transcendental presence, knowledge. It was wonderful.
I wanted to ask, Gurudas Prabhu in the chat says, thanks for giving the tips on tricking the mind. That seems so valuable, like you could turn that into a seminar.
Yeah. Didn't Gurudas say something that's it's kind of sad that we have to trick our minds? Isn't there some comment? Urbi Kunj, was there some comment? It was a good one. I saw it flash the screen.
Yeah, I said that because as Kendra Guru was just referring to, our minds, just travel so fast, and to be able to, get diverted is very, very easy. But if you have something, so we have to rely on, as Mataji was saying, you have to rely on the tricks to keep you straight, I guess.
Yeah. Looks like we've come to the end of our time. Would someone like to lead the closing kirtan? How about you, Anantasesh Prabhu? Would you like to do so?
I'm sorry, my voice box has been damaged from the medical thing I ran through.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I don't even remember what it was. Dana, Lakshmana. Don't be shy. Chant Hare Krishna. Anybody? All right.
I'm done. I can chant if you like.
Great. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Guru Dasa Jayadvaita Swami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
You can recite the Premadwani prayers, Prabhu.
Sure. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Puripachakacharya Ashto Tadashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Puripachakacharya Ashto Tadashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Mukunda Charan Prabhu.
Jai.
And thank you to everyone for being here and for everyone's wonderful contributions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you.
Saraswati Mata had one final comment that we didn't get to, but it's short. I'd like to read it. Reading the Srimad-Bhagavatam makes it clear how realizations of Krishna and his pastimes with different devotees never reach a limit at all, but increase.
Jai.
Haribol, Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Haribol. Jai Krishna Konteya.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Mukunda Charan.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, everyone. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you to everyone. Namaha, Namaha. Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
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 His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends Ki Jai.
Jai.
Haribol.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hari Haribol.
Hari Haribol. Hope to see you all Monday, if not sooner.
Jai.